Oh, Canada.
Put on a suit, drink water, don't drink and drive. Hey, man, call your mother.
It means nothing. It means nothing.
Nah, they lying to you. It's about the money.
Now you're more fluent.
I don't have a soundboard and I hate it.
It's like my man is out of his element. He can't handle it. Sorry.
I don't like it. I don't like it. Not one bit. What's going on, Jay? How you doing, man?
Hey, man. You know, it's basketball season, Tone. You know how we do around here when the basketball season starts? My blood pressure get up. I get a little excited. In fact, I get even more excited when we have cool guests on. So basketball season plus cool guests. Come on, man. I mean, it doesn't really get much better than that.
So Jeff Pearlman,
yes,
when he said he would do it, he's like, yeah, I'd love to come on the show. I was like, no, and he's like, no, for real, I would. And I'm like, okay, I didn't know how to react because, like, for those that don't know, you know this, right? I'm a huge Chicago Bears fan, as you know.
Yes, you are.
The player that got me into the Bears, Walter Payton. He wrote a book called Sweetness about Walter Payton.
Incredible.
Time out. There's more.
Oh, it gets even better.
So my favorite basketball player, and the whole reason I'm into basketball, as we know, 1980, Magic Johnson. He writes the book, literally the book, Showtime. Oh, no, don't get there yet. Don't get there yet. He writes the book Showtime, of course, about my Lakers, which then eventually becomes the show that I love to watch. They exaggerated a bit, called Winning Time.
Oh, wait, rewind. I just want to make sure I'm understanding you correctly, Tom. So not only did he write an autobiography on your favorite player in the history of the Bears? Okay, he does that. Now on top of that, the guy who got you into the NBA, he writes a book on that, your favorite team. Is that? I just want to make sure I'm following you here, Tom.
You're following, and I hate to do this. You know what? Maybe I'll do that. Oh yeah, I'll do that. Yes. There, blur. I'll blur it. I don't want you to see my bed back there, but I hate that virtual background. So yes, so not only on the Bears, on Walter Payton, but also on the Showtime Lakers. But wait, there's more.
Oh, boy.
Now you can bring that up. He writes 3-ring Circus about Kobe, Shaq, and Phil Jackson. And do you know who, of course, in my top 5 rappers of all time, in most people's, I believe, top 5, a young man, God rest his soul, by the name of Tupac Shakur. Yeah, he's got that book coming out in a couple of months.
Unbelievable.
And that's not, and listen, he's written about Barry Bonds. He's written about books about the Cubs. Like, I didn't even know you had that book. I
did. Yes, I did. So, well, first and foremost, Tone, I'm a huge fan of a good read. I got my whole bookshelf here, and this is the last book that I read. I haven't read a good book in a long time, and when I first heard that it was coming out, and I know a little bit about Jeff Pearlman. He's been on ESPN a couple times. He's written some books. He's talked about some things, and he looked real interesting. So when I saw this originally, when I saw this book, I was like, I do want to check this out. Yeah, I do want to check this out, and I want to see what this is all about. And I read the book, and we'll definitely get into it. Sure, definitely we will.
How much of the book that you read?
Sure,
because you know one of those people in that book. Accurate?
As
to
accurate
the best of your knowledge?
As accurate as you can be, unless you were in there every night. It's about as accurate as you can possibly be. I didn't really see any. What I read, like the story about Samaki Walker, the story about Phil Jackson and Jerry West. Like, unless you were there, like, you can't really depict how it was really going on. And the stuff that he talked about, it was pretty accurate, Tone. It was pretty accurate. And I'm a big fan of guys who when they write stuff, that it's not just tabloid. I'm not a TMZ fan. I'm not a tabloid guy. I'm interested in real journalism, and Jeff Pearlman is a real journalist.
Yeah, I'm going to be interested to talk to him too about like in winning time.
Sure.
They make Jerry West look horrible,
like a raging maniac.
And the story about him hiring a private investigator to follow around Norm Nixon because he thinks he's doing coke.
Mm.
And so I want to ask him about that.
Sure.
But he also, I don't. Do you know that he's on TikTok?
I did not know that. No.
So he's on TikTok, and he has another great. Let me ask you a trivia question. The year that Kobe was drafted, 96.
Mm-hmm.
There was 3 high school players picked. Can you name them? Obviously, Kobe's one.
The 3 high school players that were picked in the draft that year. Let's see.
Yeah.
Bryant was number 13. Jermaine O'Neal was, I think, 17 or 18. And there was another high school player picked that year. I'm drawing a blank. I know it was 2 of them. I know Kobe and Jermaine O'Neal were picked that year. Let's see. Who's the other high school player who was picked? I'm drawing a blank, Tone. I'm not sure who the other high school player was.
I had completely forgot about him too. And I actually saw Jeff's TikTok about Taj Red. I don't even know his name.
Oh, the guy who was a paralegal. He a paralegal now. I did see that.
Drafted out of high school. Can you
Yes.
imagine being drafted out of high school the same year as Kobe and Jermaine O'Neal?
That was actually my draft class, though. That was my senior year of college.
Or was that you?
Yeah.
Where were you?
Yep.
Where were you drafted?
I was
You were
not
second round, right? Second round.
No, I was not picked in any round. Nope. They passed on me.
Unfortunately, I didn't get drafted last year. So I'm officially an NBA free agent.
Did they pass on you, Tom?
They passed on me. I had some interest late in the second round at 55 to the Lakers, but they went with somebody else. I think it had something to do with his dad.
I understand. I know how that goes.
I get it.
Mm-hmm. I know how that goes. Sure. I can definitely understand that.
I'm in a hotel, so I have to drink. I hate it. I'm drinking straight out the bottle. It's a bit. I'm like, I can't. I'm thirsty. I got to drink.
I saw something online about Jeff Pearl and how he got started. So, we'll get to that. We'll definitely.
He'll be here. He'll be here in like 5-10 minutes.
Yep.
He's pulling a Tim Hardaway.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be in his car.
Yeah.
But hey, people are busy, so we appreciate everything that they do. So let's jump into some hoops while we wait for him. Nikola Jokic.
Yep.
40 points, 10 rebounds.
Yep.
4 assists, 2 blocks.
Mm-hmm.
66.7, which basically means 66.6666666 percent from the field. But the Nuggets do not look good. Like, even though they beat the Raptors by 1, that's a bad Raptor team.
In overtime, by the way.
It's a bad Raptor team to be winning by 1.
Yes.
So what are the issues in Denver? Is it can we blame Russ again already?
Well, Russ is
10%.
Russ is part of the problem, right? Okay. But Russ isn't the only problem. Their major problem is they can't shoot. It's not he can't shoot, it's they can't shoot. One of their biggest problems right now, one of their biggest problems right now is they don't really get up. They don't really get a lot of good shots. If I gotta depend on, I watched them a couple of nights ago against the Clippers, a couple of afternoons ago, Saturday afternoon, I watched them against the Clippers. Tony, if we gotta depend on Joker hitting 7 to 8 threes in order for us to have a chance to win, we're not gonna win many games. We're not. Yeah. And one of the main reasons why we're not gonna win many games because we got guys like Jamal Murray, shooting under 40% from the floor. We got guys like we got guys like MPJ. We got guys like MPJ barely shooting 35% from the floor. So when we have guys doing that, then on top of that, them being a long ball shooting team, because Joker creates so much more offense for them because they still run the same action that they ran last year. They still get out in transition. In addition to them getting out in transition, their half court stuff where a lot of pick and pop with Joker, it doesn't seem to be as crisp. Jamal Murray looks heavy. He looks slow. He doesn't look as sharp as he was in the past when he was on that team that won the NBA championship. They just look out of sorts. And there's a part of me, Tone, that's thinking that this might be a one-off. This might be a one-off, but I'm giving them, I'm not jumping out the window on Denver yet. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt off the strength that they got the best team, they got the best player in the league. So I can't just count them out because they aren't shooting the basketball well. Again, it's the fourth game of the season. Not only is it the fourth game of the season, they got the best player in the league on their team. So I can't just count them out. No, and I'm not going to do that.
Okay, so there's so much stuff there.
Yep.
So we talked about shooting. Have we become a league that is so predicated on good shooting that if you have a bad night, a bad stretch, just like I feel like they don't. If you're not hitting from deep, you're done. Have we ruined the NBA?
Well, we haven't ruined it. Analytics ruined it because it's either at the rim. Everything is either at the rim or it's at the long ball line. There's nothing in between. And that buzzword that fans like to use is called spacing. So if you're not 27 feet, 28 feet away from the basket, there's no spacing. When in reality, that's just not true. You can play in the mid-range, right? You can play in the mid-post and you can create spacing. But I'm watching Joker last night when they played against Toronto, and a lot of times they just load up and they get the ball to Joker and they'll just load up. So I'm thinking to myself, is there any possible way that we could get more action? Is it? Because if I'm watching this team, if that's the way that they're going to win, that's the way that you beat Denver. You beat Denver by Joker scoring all the points, which is not the way he wants to play, Tone. No, he does not want to play like that. And what we've done now is it's a copycat league. When guys like Steph Curry, the Golden State Warriors, James Harden, when you see teams like that shooting the long ball like that and it's working, okay, that's what we have to do in order to win. There's always more than one way to skin a cat, but that's just been the way to do it. And analytics, I feel like, has ruined basketball.
So Jeff is here. I'm going to wait and let him make sure he's situated on his camera before we bring him in.
Yep.
But I want to touch on that point about analytics because people will argue that it's not analytics' fault. It is and it isn't. It is analytics' fault. But it's also the people that have now bought into analytics as being the be all and end all. And remember, I tell you this all the time. Yes, 3 is more than 2.
Sure.
We agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
However, it's sometimes mathematically tough to judge what putting pressure on a defense, right? When you penetrate, when you're successful in the mid-range, when you're getting, like we've talked about, how many more fouls you get when you shoot 2s versus 3s. That's all part of the game too. Like, you can't, I'm sorry. I don't think what the Celtics are doing, shooting 100 threes a game, is sustainable. It's just not. It's not. Right?
Man.
Like, they're going to go, right? Like, you can win games just as quick as you can lose them. So we'll get back to the analytics conversation. We'll get, obviously we'll talk more about the Nuggets because I think, like I said, I think more Toronto lost that game than they won that game. But we got the Cavs. We got the Bucks. We got a bunch of stuff to talk about.
Sure.
Now, here we go. We're going to bring in, as we mentioned before, Jeff Pearlman. Do you want to bring up the book? Because I think it's kind of cool. Oh, and we lost him.
And we lost him. He'll be back.
and we lost him.
We lost him.
I'm sure he'll be right back. Once he comes back in, I'll bring him back.
Yeah,
in.
Tone would. I mean, we live in that space. It's very much like football. It's a copycat league. So, but we got Jeff back. Yeah,
there we go. He's back now. All right.
We have Jeff back. So,
I can't hear you guys. I'm sorry.
We can hear you.
Can you hear us now? We can hear you great.
Oh, we had him.
And that was it, ladies and gentlemen.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jeff, for joining us. We appreciate you, brother. Absolutely. Give a round of applause to Jeff Pearlman.
Go by the book.
Absolutely.
Hey, the beauty of live streaming is you're gonna have technical issues. He'll be back when he can.
Yeah, Tone. It's a copycat league. A lot of these teams that win. Don't get me wrong. It's in, and I'm like, Milwaukee wasn't a great jump shooting team, but what they did in 2021, they were in the top 10 in the league in 3-point attempts. They were in the top 10 in the league in 3-pointers made. If you think about that Milwaukee Bucks team with Drew Holiday and Giannis and Middleton and Bobby Portis, like, does that sound like a great 3-point shooting team? Because it doesn't sound like a great 3-point shooting team to me.
Well, you're saying the right word that people forget, right? You've said team.
Yep.
Right, and that's the difference. He's giving me the thumbs up. I think that means he can hear us. We'll get back to the Bucks in a second.
Yes,
can you hear us now?
I can hear you kind of now, I think.
All right.
Now.
Yeah, we good. We can hear you.
Nobody
just fine.
move. If nobody moves, we're good.
Nope, we good. I'm gonna keep my head straight.
Jeff, how you doing?
I'm good as long as this Wi-Fi holds out. I'm great. I'm using the Wi-Fi of the yoga store like 5 feet in front of me. So,
and it's working. Let's keep that theme going.
Are you in California?
I'm in California.
No, it's bright outside, and he's using the Wi-Fi for the yoga place. It's got to be Cali. So before you came on, we were talking. Obviously, Jay here has something next to him. So we were talking about obviously some of the books that you wrote. So just so you know, because I haven't told you this before. You've written about 3, and soon you're gonna have something coming out about my 4 like favorite things in the world. So you can't see it.
Oh, did we lose him again?
No, I think he just turned off his camera.
Okay.
I hope he just turned off his camera. I'm gonna keep talking as if he's there. So you can't see it because I'm in a hotel today. But typically when I'm at home,
sorry,
that's okay. I have a Chicago Bears helmet in behind me because I'm a huge Chicago Bears fan, die hard, and the person that got me into it was Walter Payton, and of course you wrote Sweetness. The person that got me into basketball, 1980, watching Magic Johnson and the Lakers. That's how I became a lifelong Laker fan. So you've obviously written Winning Time and then 3-Ring Circus. Is that what it is? I know you have that one there. 3-Ring Circus, and of course coming out in the new year. There we go. Is your book on Tupac, one of my favorite rappers. So when I reached out to you and you're like, yeah, definitely come talk to him. Like, I don't know what to talk about first because there's so much that I want to ask you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to not stop being a fan for a second. I'm going to ask Jermaine to ask you the first part so I can stop talking.
Jeff, I'm a huge fan of journalism, real journalism. We got a lot of TMZ people. We got a lot of people who, spew a lot of nonsense. What got you into journalism?
For me, can you guys hear me okay?
Yep, you hot. You're hot.
Okay. For me, I mean, to be honest, I was a high school kid and I was like your typical high school nerd who ran track and was kind of ignored. And I started writing for the high school newspaper. This is Mail Pack, New York. And one day I wrote a story called Cheerleading, Sport or Activity with a question mark. And I determined in this piece that cheerleading was not a sport, it was an activity. And I wrote the story. And when it came out, I was sitting in the lunchroom and all the cheerleaders were really mad at me and they were all surrounding me and they're all talking to me. And I'm like, 17-year-old me has never kissed a girl, never gone near a cheerleader, blah, 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 ignored. And all of a sudden they're all talking to me and they're mad at me. And I'm like, oh my God, journalism, this is amazing. And
this might be it.
That's not why I do it now. Obviously I'm married with 2 kids, but I think there's something very impactful when you're young, and even at this age, that you can actually make a difference. You can write something and people pay attention and you have a voice. And maybe normally in life you feel voiceless, but when you're a journalist, suddenly people are willing to talk to you and you have a voice. And that's very alluring for a young person. I
just feel like when you're dealing with real journalism, like to get the story as opposed to what sort of kind of happened. When I read your books, I don't feel like I'm getting some of the story. I feel like I'm getting it from somebody who was there or somebody who has reliable sources that were there. I feel like that's real journalism.
I mean, I would agree with you. The thing to me is my whole philosophy with books for good or for bad, is like, all right, like just as an example, you head up Three Ring Circus. And like, obviously Shaq, Kobe, Phil, big names. Derek Fisher, big name. Different guys are big names. Glenn Rice, whatever. But like, all these people were there. Like, just as Glenn Rice and Shaq and Kobe were there, Mike Penberthy was there too. Like Samaki Walker was there too. Like, all these guys were there, and they were in the same meetings, on the same bus rides, eating the same meals, and they were all there. And I think too often what you learn as a young journalist is you got to go to Shaq, you got to go to Kobe, you got to go to Phil, which is not untrue. But all these people, when I was a baseball writer at Sports Illustrated, I did a lot of work. Tom Verducci was like the #1 guy, and I was like his caddy. And I would watch Tom work at Clubhouse. And let's say it was the Yankees World Series. All these people surrounding Derek Jeter, surrounding Bernie Williams, and Verducci's talking to the bullpen coach, or Verducci's talking to the backup catcher, and he's getting details and little nooks and nobody else is getting.
Sure.
So for me with books, that's really my go-to. Like if I'm writing about Tupac, Chuck D is important because he toured with Public Enemy, but equally important is the fifth guy in Digital Underground who might have been backstage with Tupac. Like that's my whole approach.
So you kind of answered my question, because I was going to ask you, so where do you get all this stuff from? Because getting a hold of the Shaqs, the Kobes, the Phil Jacksons are difficult. So that's kind of answers my first question. My second one, I'm going to go back to something you said a second ago. You said 2 kids, but your bio says 11. What are the other 9?
They're my fictitious children to throw off America. I don't know. He's goofing around on my website.
Right? The cats, dogs, whatever.
Yeah. No, only two.
Okay. So I'm going to go back because there's a story that you touched on that I want to know, because it didn't. So Showtime, that book, it was what Winning Time is based on. Obviously, it's TV. I'm assuming they exaggerate as much as possible to make it better for television. So I do want to talk about Jerry West, but first I want to talk about, I heard a story you said that didn't make Winning Time, which was Jerry West hiring a private investigator to follow Norm Nixon.
Correct.
So can you, for those that haven't heard the story, I guess he believed he was using drugs. He wanted to catch him.
Yeah. So I got it from Norm when I interviewed Norm for the book, and then confirmed actually. And it was, I think it was 82. Norm Nixon, obviously important player on the Lakers. And there were rumors, it was the 80s. So there were rumors, and it was LA. There were rumors with a lot of guys that there was drug usage. Right. And Jerry West had never really liked Norm Nixon. He coached him before he was the general manager, and just found him to be kind of a hot dog and a showboat and not a great listener. And he was pretty convinced that Norm was using coke. So he hired a private investigators to follow Norm Nixon around and to report back to Jerry West. And one day, Norm pulls up to his house, and some kid down the block is like, "Hey, Mr. Nixon, I don't know if you know this, but there's some guy waiting outside, blah, 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 blah." And Norm confronted the guy. And the guy ultimately said to Norm Nixon, "Look, I've been following you around for like whatever amount of time. And I just think, I don't know what they have me looking for, but I don't see it at all. I just want to give you a heads up that the Lakers are trailing you." Yeah. So Norm confronted Jerry West, and West admitted it. He's like, "I know you're doing drugs." And Norm Nixon's like, "I'm not going to tell you if I am or I'm not, but I'm not." And, it caused, they already had a real friction, but like when Norm Nixon was traded to the Clippers for Byron Scott and Swen Nader, the friction had hit an apex.
Sure. Absolutely. And it's interesting too, Jeff, when you bring up your sources, because, one of the main rules in journalism is protect your source. But I'm a big fan of crime TV, and the stuff that you talk about in terms of getting your information is exactly what the FBI talks about when they're dealing with the mob. They don't go to the second dude. They don't go to the third dude. They're trailing like the 5th or the 6th wise guy. That's the guy that they're after, because he's going to tell them everything.
But also, I will say, like, I'm not opposed to protecting my source, but Norm told me all
100%.
that on the record with this name use. So, but yeah, of course. And it's just true. Like, it's just, if you want to get textual, like the whole thing is this: you're writing a book about the Shaq Kobe era, and you want to know, like, to me, it's important how the little people are treated by the big people too. So like a lot of guys, I interviewed a lot of guys who were invited to camp and got cut. And, you know, like just as an example, one year Jimmy King played Summer League with Kobe, and Jimmy King was best known from the Fab Five, Michigan Fab Five. And Kobe just wanted to carve him up because he was the Fab Five and he was famous and he was big before Kobe ever was. And Kobe was just merciless with Jimmy King of the Fab Five because he wanted to prove himself. And I would have never known that if I didn't talk to Jimmy King, who was only with the Lakers for like a week and a half or whatever it was. So like all those things are really, 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 they just add texture. You may end up not using stuff. Like I interviewed, I don't know, 650 people for Tupac. 200 of those people will never be in the book. But like, it can't hurt having texture. You can't hurt making the extra call.
So just because you talked about Kobe carving up Jimmy, I got to ask you this. So obviously, Kobe, God rest his soul, later on in his career talked about never losing one-on-one, right? Nobody ever beat him one-on-one. In fact, I know someone on this podcast who lost to him in one-on-one, not mentioning any names. And my question is,
Jeff, before we go any further, just so you know, he was 19 years old. I had just gotten out of college. He's not Kobe Bryant yet, right? So he's not this big deal. Nobody really knows him that well. And I end up playing him one-on-one to 11, and I scored 9 points on him. I'm right out of college. I'm thinking about this. I'm thinking about this kid. I'm not thinking about Kobe being Bryant. I'm just thinking about this kid that's out of high school. And we end up playing one-on-one, and he beats me 11-9. And we went at it, not realizing that he was studying me, right? He was studying me as we were playing, because we end up playing again, and he beat me 11-0. I didn't score again.
Wow.
That's my favorite part.
He beat me 11-0. And I didn't even realize
but
he was sizing me up.
That's an awesome story for you to have, though. Like, that's an awesome, you know, my college roommate used to say, he's like, life is all about the stories. It's all about the stories you have to tell. They're your currency. And I 100% agree. And that's an awesome story.
Absolutely, man.
He's giving you the okay to use that if you ever do another follow-up book on that.
In there.
You can interview. But my question is this. I've heard rumors, and one of my friends on one of our other show, the Hoop Historians, which does the history of hoops, Tony Stiles, said he heard rumors of Eddie Jones and Nick Van Exel beating Kobe in some one-on-ones. Did you hear any of those stories as you were kind of going through doing that stuff?
No, the most vivid one-on-one story I heard was so J.R. Rider is acquired by the Lakers, and Kobe is just begging him to play one-on-one. Let's play one-on-one, because J.R. Rider had serious skills and was a marquee number 2 guard in the NBA. And the whole story goes like, you know how time like sometimes like is like, and Kobe destroyed him and shut him out and blah blah blah. And that wasn't the case. It was like 11-8. You know, it wasn't like J.R. Rider was a hell of a player. You're not going to shut out J.R. Rider in a game one-on-one. So, but no, I don't know. It's possible if Nick Van Exel beat him. That'd be surprising considering Nick Van Exel was like 6'2", but maybe, you know.
I think Eddie Jones may be more realistic, probably, because
Maybe
he was younger.
Absolutely.
Because he was younger, right? He went in, it was that those first couple of years. You mentioned 650 people you talked to, and you know all these stuff. Is there? I know this is going to be hard, but is there a story that just never made any of the books that you're like, but that's really good? Like, I wish I could have found a way to put that in because it was a good bit of information or a good story.
That doesn't happen that often. Usually it's stuff that doesn't make it because for some legal reason or you can't verify it. I will say, like, I just had this the other day. I handed in my Tupac manuscript like a month ago. And then I remembered, now I'll probably get it in later, second draft, but I remember I left out, I was able to get Suge Knight's. Suge Knight went to UNLV on a football scholarship. And I got Suge Knight's report card from one of his years at UNLV. And he got like a D in music. And I just thought that was really funny. And I totally forgot to put that in. So I'm going to have to get that back in. So I mean, you forget things. Like the thing that actually happens, honestly, is like if you interview that many people, you do have stuff at the end where you're like, oh my God, I totally forgot about that interview. I totally forgot about that guy.
Right.
And that stuff will drive you crazy. But I'm usually it's just the stuff that for legal reasons or verification you don't use. Yeah.
So really quickly, Jeff, the way that story with Bryant happened with J.R. Ryder was J.R. Ryder used to go after Kobe when he first came into the league. And as Kobe got older, he felt like, okay, I'm more prepared for him as of right now. And that's why he kept begging him. It's almost like the little brother who's getting beat up, and now, the little brother's got some size now and he's ready to take on the big brother. And now it ends up being something. But you talk about in your book, because I am a huge fan of autobiographies, Jeff. I love to learn about people. And Tone knows this about me. I believe 49 Red. But when I was a kid, whenever the Bears were on TV, I was in front of the TV because Sweetness is one of my favorite players ever. And two, he's one of the best humans that I've ever heard. One of the main reasons I was attracted to him, because he said, quote, I play for the guy who saved up 2 weeks of pay to bring his son to come see me run. I was a huge fan of him. Now, you did an autobiography on him. What type of guy did you find him to be?
So here's the thing. First of all, just to be clear, it wasn't an autobiography, because I wrote it with him. It was a biography. I didn't do it with him. I did it.
Sure.
Complicated. And people are complicated, right? He was, on the one hand, a really decent and empathetic human being who wanted to make people feel better and was very acutely aware, like you said, of the fan who's going to his first Bears game. He's taking his son. He's there to see Walter Payton, and he wanted to give that guy his money's worth. So he was very aware of that. And he played as hard as anyone. He just played as hard as anyone. He ran hard. He didn't take a play off. And then there's just being honest, he had a kid out of wedlock who he never met, not one time, except when the kid was born. And the kid lived just a couple miles away, and he paid his child support, but had nothing to do with him. He later on in life, and again, I think personally, and when the book came out, CTE wasn't that studied yet. So it wasn't, and Walter Payton, after he died, never had any analysis of his brain. It's too late, blah, blah, blah. But he was doing things after he died that were really, really troubling. He was calling his assistant at all hours of the night saying, you're not going to see me tomorrow morning. I'm going to kill myself. I'm not going to be alive. I'm going to take people with me. He was.
This is after he retired. This is after he retired, yes. You mean? Okay.
Correct.
I'm with you.
He, at his Hall of Fame induction ceremony, his wife was in row 1 and his mistress was in row 3. And he was petrified all week of the two running into each other. Sure. And in one of the great moments in Hall of Fame history, I will say, Walter Payton's wife, Connie, goes to Walter Payton's agent and says, I know she's here and I want to meet her. And Walter Payton's agent's like, you want what? And she's like, I know she's here and I want to meet her. And the two sit down, and Connie says to her, and I interviewed the mistress, so I have good accounting on this, says to her, you can have him. I don't want him. And that was in the lobby at the hotel where everyone stayed in Canton, Ohio. So that's the thing. People are complicated. If you did a book on me tomorrow, people will be like, oh, Jeff, he's such a nice guy. He's helping me with journalism, blah, blah, blah. But you're going to find crap about me too. Right. It's just, people are complicated. The more you learn about your heroes, that's the thing about biography. I always tell people, if you just want to love your heroes and you don't want to know about their lives, you don't want to know about the complexities and the ups and downs, you probably shouldn't read unauthorized biographies. You just, and that's cool. That's totally fine. But to me, biographies are history's record of individuals and acts. And I want to know about Martin Luther King, and I want to know who he was. So I read Jonathan Ives' book on Martin Luther King. I want to know about Malcolm X. I read Manning Marabou on Malcolm X. I want to know about Walter. That's what biography is supposed to be, for good and for bad.
So can you give us a little, I know you just gave in the first round of I believe, of the manuscript for the Tupac. So how does that come about? Is it kind of, you're a fan? I believe I read that you're a fan. And you're just like, this is someone I want to do something on. And then what areas do you focus on? Is it his life, his music, a little bit of everything, his death? Where did the story, I guess, take you?
So it's funny. I've written 10 books. They're all sports. I definitely was itching to try something outside of my comfort zone. I'm a big Tupac fan. He's definitely one of my top 3 or 4 rappers, top 3 or 4 artists probably of all time. And I just felt that there wasn't a great great definitive biography of his life. There's one that came out last year that I thought was very good, but it was written by the estate, the Shakur estate, so they pull some punches, understandably. And I just really wanted to dive into his life. And for me, I mean, he only lived to 25. He was very young when he died, and it's a it's really a birth to death, dive in completely, travel all the like I went. He was born in New York. I went to all the apartments he lived in New York. He moved to Baltimore. I knocked on the door of where he lived in Baltimore. He moved to Marin City. I literally went to the apartment in Marin City, like step by step by step. He dies on the corner of Flamingo and Colville in Vegas. I go out there to the corner, like everything and everybody, and retracing all these steps of Tupac and his life. And he's a very, 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 very complex figure. A guy who, on the one hand, is, you know, shouting out thug life and dropping gang references in his raps, and on the other hand, wasn't a gangbanger even slightly. Attended the
not even a little bit,
not even a little bit. Couldn't fight, couldn't shoot a basketball, couldn't hit a baseball. Was about 5'8" in shoes. You know, like he was a little artist. He loved the crazy thing. Tupac's favorite artists. If you actually said, so who are the artists you love? You might think like, oh, it's got to be a Public Enemy and LL Cool J. It was like Kate Bush. It was Don McLean. It was the Indigo Girls. His favorite music was the Les Mis soundtrack. His favorite movie was probably The Lion King. Like he was a theater kid playing a part, and he kind of went in too deep into that part. Yeah. And here we sit.
We go ahead, Tone. I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead.
Well, we have a tendency, Jeff, to not be able to separate, because you just brought it up when you talk about unauthorized biographies. You know, we have a tendency not to be able to separate the artists from the actual art. And for all intents and purposes, I had a really big problem with Tupac when I was younger, and that was when Big died. Because I had a real disdain for him when Biggie was killed, because I felt like it was his fault that Biggie was killed. And this was previous to Big getting killed. I had all of his music. I was a huge Tupac fan. Yeah. And then I stepped off of him for a while, but then some time had passed and I started listening to him again, and it started to come back why I really dug him, because how deep he was. Yeah. And how deep rooted he was, not just in the community, but how much he loved Black people, how much he loved people, how much he was against people being oppressed, how much he was for people, standing up for people more than anything. I became more of a fan of Tupac after he was gone than I was when he was alive.
I mean, he's just so interesting. Like, obviously Hit 'Em Up, not his finest moment. And that song, the guys from the Outlaws all have regret over that song, and sort of basically, you know, is No Vaseline times a million, like as far as the impact of that song. And I think he just got caught up in the nonsense. And I think Suge Knight got him out, kind of got him out of prison, out of Clinton. And he feels like he's now death row and he has to play. You know, I saw an interview with Ice-T. Now, I didn't get to talk to Ice-T for this book, but I saw this interview he did. And I keep thinking about it all the time, where he's talking about Tupac. And he's like, he goes, you don't join a gang when you're 25. Like Tupac kept identifying as, as mob and, Bloods and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, he's like, you don't join a gang when you're 25. And then I interviewed a guy who's become a really good friend of mine, is this rapper Glasses Malone. And he's like, I'm sure, and he's a longtime gang member. And Glasses said to me, he's like, I'm sure the Bloods were thrilled to have the celebrity promoting them. Like, that's great, great. But like, it was ridiculous to have Tupac at that age, at that point in his life. Like Tupac, truth of the matter is, and most people agree with this, most people I interviewed, most hip hop artists agree with this, Tupac at that point should have bought a nice house. Like, he should have taken care of his money. You can still be real, but also, have some benefits from the money you're making. Like, he died with very little money. Death Row was taking complete advantage of him. Suge Knight was taking complete advantage of him. And the craziest thing is, on the night he died, when he sees Orlando Anderson in the lobby of the MGM, it is preposterous that he was able, Tupac, the cash cow of Death Row, was able to run up on this guy and start beating the crap out of him. Like, there's no universe where Bruce Springsteen,
that's not happening,
where all of those see someone are beating up. There's 7 guards around them who do not allow it.
That's not happening. That's not.
It is, And considering his mom was a Black Panther and what his mom stood for, his death, I started this book finding his death shameful, and I end this book feeling the exact same way. It was shameful.
It was.
Yep.
It's we always seem to go back and find new stuff that was always there. And it was interesting because as you and I first started communicating, and you said, well, I got to finish up, this Tupac book. I don't know, how the world listens to you. So my phone all of a sudden started pinging me with Tupac stuff. And you see now these videos of him. Is it at Juilliard or when he was
Baltimore?
And he's Baltimore.
Are you talking about the effeminate interview when he's very effeminate?
The effeminate, yeah. And that's starting to pop up all over the place, and they're saying, "See, this guy's not a thug. He's an artist. He's an actor." We saw just today. I got sent. It's him and Jada lip syncing to a Will Smith song. Parents Just Don't Understand.
How about that? In like 88.
Oh, we lost him. The Wi-Fi at the yoga studio.
We'll get him back.
We'll get him back.
Yeah, we'll get him back.
But yeah, I want to talk more of his sports books, but the fact that because the Tupac one's just coming out soon.
Sorry about that.
No, you're good.
Okay. What was the last part you heard? So I was saying that interview, and then I said just today I got sent one of him and Jada lip syncing to Will Smith's Parents Just Don't Understand. And it's like, what a contrast from the guy he became or the character he portrayed at the end. You don't know this about me. And I get that you have sources and you need to, verify everything. I am a huge conspiracy theorist. As you do the research, do you come across any juicy things that you're like, these cannot be confirmed, that you're okay saying these are some of the craziest things that about his death? Like, for example, you mentioned he died broke because Death Row was taking all the money, right? So you obviously hear, because Suge Knight, he was trying to get out of his contract.
Jeff, can you please tell Tone that Tupac is not around anymore? Can you please do that? Because he think he on an island somewhere. He thinks he's on an island somewhere.
I'm gonna tell you something. I can't show you, but Tupac is actually sitting next to me in front of the yoga.
What I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. But you guys, y'all dudes are gonna make me nuts. I can't handle this. What you do?
Wait, hold on. Wait, Pac, you got yoga at 7 or 7:15? He says 7:15, so he's good for another.
Unbelievable, these guys.
He likes to.
I mean, the biggest ones involve Puffy lately. They're involving Puffy, and he was involved and blah blah. And it's really interesting because there's all these rumors that here's the thing. There are all these rumors that Puffy, and they come from Keefe D, that Puffy, because Bad Boy was using Death Row was Bloods affiliated, Bad Boy was Crips affiliated. Bad Boy, when they would go out to the West, were using, and Puffy in particular, was using Crips as protection. So it would hire Crips to use protection.
Yep.
And Keefe D said basically that Puffy paid these guys, gave basically a bounty on Tupac's head, right? Now, here's why I don't fully buy it. I'm not saying, I think it's possible that Puffy said that, right? But it's just weird and doesn't really make sense from a purely logistic standpoint that, all right, Tupac goes to the Mike Tyson, Bruce Seldon fight. He comes out of the fight. He's excited. He's with a fellow Death Row guy, Baby Lane, who sees Trayvon Lane, who sees Orlando Anderson in the MGM. Orlando Anderson and Trayvon Lane got in a fight a few weeks earlier where Orlando Anderson tried stealing his medallion. Trayvon Lane says, that's the guy who tried stealing my medallion. Orlando Anderson is literally as recognizable as could be because he's wearing a double XL or Dan Marino Miami Dolphins jersey.
Right.
Tupac's like, who, that guy? He's like, yeah, that guy. Tupac runs up, starts beating the crap out of him. Then later, Orlando Anderson sees Tupac while driving, kills him. Now, for there to be some prearranged, Orlando Anderson just happens to be in the casino. Tupac just happens to see him. Tupac happens to be next to Trayvon Lane. Trayvon Lane recognizes him. Trayvon Lane says to Tupac, hey, that's a guy. Tupac decides, all right, I'm going to beat him up. He beats him up.
Right.
It's just too much to be organized by Puffy. like 3,000 miles away in New York City. It doesn't make any sense.
None
So
at
I'm
all.
not buying it. I am more with the there's a guy named Mob James, an old death row guy, and he's like the story is more basic than people want to think, which is Tupac beats up Orlando Anderson. Orlando Anderson is a South Side Crip. Orlando Anderson, the idea, like, it would have been bad enough to get beaten up in that public of a setting by an actual gangbanger. He got beat up by a rapper. Like, how are you going to go home to Compton after getting your ass kicked by Tupac in front of everybody? So, like, I don't know. To me, the story actually lines up. Just being honest.
So sometimes the simplest answer is the most correct.
Yes.
Yeah, doesn't mean I'm right, but I feel pretty secure in this. I do.
Jeff, I know we got to move, and I know you got to go soon. But I've always wondered, when you're doing biographies on these people who are ridiculously interesting, what's, for Sweetness, for example, what's one thing you found out about him that floored you?
Oh man, I'll give you my favorite. This is my favorite reporting story, maybe of all time. Walter Payton retires. This is like a 3-minute story. Is that okay?
Sure.
We're good on time.
We're good.
No, I'm fine. I'm just okay. As long as the Wi-Fi holds out at the yoga place, I'm good.
And Tupac's in that yoga, right, for at least 15 minutes.
He didn't go in yet. He signed up for hot yoga at 7:30, so he's good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Jada's here too in the back. I'll let you know.
Tone, you're loving this too, Tone, aren't you? Jeff, you're not helping at all.
Everybody, it's
Jeff,
true.
You're not helping at all, Jeff. I'm telling you.
Biggie's with us also, and Young MC, just coincidentally. All right, Walter Payton retires from football, and he's working as a volunteer assistant JV basketball coach at Hoffman Estates High School in the suburbs of Chicago.
Oh, Illinois, yeah. I know.
Correct.
I know.
So this is like, I don't know, 5 years after he retired, whatever. And one day, the team has a big game coming up on like Monday, and it's Friday. And Walter Payton gives him this speech about trust. He's like, the one thing you need in sports more than anything is trust. You need trust. Yep. And Walter Payton takes off his Super Bowl ring, and he goes, he hands it to the team captain, and he says, I trust you with this ring over the weekend. I trust you. You will bring it back on Monday. I trust you. I'm showing you this trust. And the guy's like, oh my God, okay. All right. So the kid takes Walter Payton's ring and he goes home. And I think the next night he has a party at his house for the team.
Oh no.
And all the kids are in the basement and they're all partying and he's passing the ring around. And at the end of the night, he goes, all right, who has my ring? Nobody. Who has my ring? Who has Walter's ring? Nobody. Nobody. They never find the ring. He has to go in Monday and tell Walter Payton that he's lost his Super Bowl ring. He's sobbing, Walter, I don't know. I'm so sorry, blah, blah, blah. And Payton is like pretending he's okay with it, but he's devastated. He's like, it's okay. It's okay. Okay. Years pass. Walter Payton dies in 1999. Years pass. And in the basement of this kid's house, there was a couch. And years later, they gave the couch to a family friend. And the family friend's kid brought the couch to Purdue University and his dorm room. And he has a dog in college who lives with him. I think it's in a frat house, actually. And there's a dog.
Yep.
And one day, the dog is scratching at the bottom of the couch. And there had been a tear in the fabric. And the ring fell through the fabric and was at the bottom of the couch. And the dog is scratching. He's like, what are you doing? And he sees, and it's literally Walter Payton's Super Bowl ring at the bottom of the couch. And my greatest reporting moment was finding out that the dog who found Walter Payton's ring was named Bailey.
Are you kidding me?
Nope. Bailey the dog found Walter Payton's Super Bowl ring.
That is incredible.
Oh my. You'd think they would have heard it shaking around there when they were moving the cap. That is crazy.
I don't know what to tell you, man.
Yeah. I'm gonna tell Jarrett that. So
that's a mic drop right there.
I wonder if he got a hold of it. I gotta ask him.
That is a mic drop right there. No doubt about it.
Okay. I only have one more thing. If you can indulge me with one more story, it could be anything, but you don't know my favorite player of any sport is Magic Johnson. When you did Showtime, is there what's your favorite Magic Johnson story? It doesn't even have to be from the book, but I'm sure that's where it's going to come from.
I'll tell you.
I'll let you go to your yoga with Pac and Biggie and everybody.
Magic's here too, actually.
Is
There
Elvis
was
somewhere
something-
by any chance? We get the whole crew together.
See what you started, Jeff? See what you started, Jeff? This is what I got to deal with on the regular. This is what you started. Unbelievable, man.
Listen, we interviewed Bob Ryan. He said he lived around the corner from Elvis. There's no reason why he's not sitting in front.
And that was nuts when he said that.
I love Bob Ryan.
Mhm.
Okay.
It was actually
This
Woody
was
Page.
not used in Winning Time. And I never understood why. It's not an amazing story, but it's my favorite thing about Magic, okay? Because it symbolized something. So Magic is drafted by the Lakers out of Michigan State. He goes number 1, obviously, in 79. And the Lakers fly him to LA for the first time. And he's coming to meet Jerry Buss. And they end up having this scene, you saw it in the show, where they go to the Forum and the whole thing. But the one thing they didn't use is he's picked up in a town car and he's being driven to the Forum. And he says the guy driving the car, he's like, yo, can you stop the car, stop the car, stop the car. And the guy's like, why? He's like, hold on. And he gets out of the car because he sees orange trees. And he goes up and he picks an orange off a tree. And he goes, they grow fruit on trees out here. And there's this image to me of Magic Johnson, 19 years old, plucking an orange off a tree. Yeah. And like that being his welcome to Hollywood, welcome to LA, and with his big smile holding an orange. And I just love that so much. And I was actually disappointed they didn't use it in the show because I think it's so symbolic. I mean, the show, I have no complaints, but
yeah.
So I love that. I always, when I think of Magic Johnson, I'm actually wearing a Magic Johnson shirt. It's kind of funny, just randomly. And
stay positive.
Yeah, I'm trying these days. And
what are you laughing about? He's just like you. You two guys are two peas in a pod, 100%. Y'all both trolls. I can already tell, right? You two guys are. No doubt about it. I'm
immediately thinking I got to get that shirt.
Exactly, because that's something that you would wear, Tone. That's 100% something that you would wear right there. I'm sure of it.
Don't be surprised if on next 100%. Week's show I'm wearing that shirt, Jay.
Jeff, This is your book. I read it. I was very fascinated by it. Fact checking because, Shaq and I are family, and a lot of the stuff that
I don't know that he knows that, by the way.
I don't. Yeah, Shaq and I are family, and a lot of the stuff that you wrote in it was pretty accurate. And it's interesting when people see the Lakers rolling the way that they were rolling in the NBA championship 4 times in 5 years, winning it 3. Kobe and Shaq together building this for 8 seasons. They don't know how tumultuous it was.
Yeah.
Right. They have no idea how tumultuous this was. They just think that it was just basketball. These guys were showing up to practice every day. They were just showing up to games, not realizing that there was some real problems there. Real problems.
Shaq told me something. So I went to Atlanta and interviewed Shaq, and he was awesome. Like, he was great. He really was. And this was before Kobe died. So people were a little more free and talk,
sure.
In a way, it's better I did this book before he passed, because people were much more, they're willing to speak about Kobe. And at one point I was with Shaq, and the one thing I remember, I have to say, I'm sure you've experienced this, like, he was drinking a Coke, but his hands are so freaking enormous that it looked like he was drinking a mini can. Like, I have that image in my head. But I was telling him how I always thought the difference between him and Kobe in a way that, like, he was in on the joke where Kobe wasn't. Like, the joke of it all is like Shaq would call himself the big Aristotle or Superman, but it was always like kind of funny. And like, I feel like Shaq always understood how sort of preposterously awesome it was that I'm getting paid millions of dollars to wear pajamas and shoot a basketball. And I said something like, I mean, you called yourself the big Aristotle and always joked about it, but I think Kobe literally thought of himself as the Black Mamba. And Shaq just goes to me, he goes in his deep, deep, deep voice, he goes, brother, you have no idea. And I always thought, that's great. Brother, you have no idea.
Yeah.
He was the Black Mamba.
But also like Shaq treated the beauty of Shaq. I always say, like, right now in America, the void of Muhammad Ali as that celebrity in an airport everyone feels comfortable going up to has been filled by 3 people. And it's so weird. It's Dolly Parton, it's Snoop Dogg, and it's Shaq. Are the 3 guys who my mom, the kid walking down the street, both of you, everyone would be comfortable going up to. And Shaq was that way. Like, you can't find a teammate. Mark Madsen was Shaq's teammate. Mark Madsen is a Mormon. Shaq would literally, when they were flying, he'd say to the flight attendants, he'd be like, hey, Are you Mormon? Like he was trying to be Mark Madsen's Mormon hookup. When I mentioned Mike Penberthy, who was a rookie undrafted guard out of Masters College, and he shows up and he basically has one jacket and he bought it off the rack at like TJ Maxx, and not even joking, like literally. And Shaq is like, I'm going to set you up with my tailor tomorrow. It's on me, and has suits made for Mike Penberthy. Like Shaq was that guy. And Kobe, and Kobe grew a lot, obviously, in his life. So this is not disparaging the dead, blah, blah, blah. Like there's a moment in the book. It's the year that Gary Payton and Karl Malone are on the Lakers, 04.
Yep.
And they're going to be off for Thanksgiving. And Kobe's about to leave the room. And Malone is like, yo, young buck, come here. And they have this talk. And Karl Malone says to Kobe, part of being a good teammate is before you leave, you say, hey, have a good Thanksgiving to all the guys in the locker room. And Kobe literally goes man to man and says, have a good Thanksgiving. Like it wasn't natural to him. Kobe got married in Dana Point. Not only were his teammates not invited, they literally didn't know he was getting married. Like he just was a different. I'm not saying that makes him a bad guy. He was just a different guy than Shaq. He was a 180 from Shaq.
Yes.
It's funny that you say he's like approachable. And I know you got to go here in a sec, but I just told Jay a story. Shaq was in my town in Toronto recently, and he was trying to walk around incognito.
I saw that.
Did you see that? And he's just like walking by, and the guy goes, "Hey, Shaq," and just keeps walking by him, which is a very Toronto thing to do. We kind of leave the celebrities alone. And he was like, "Oh, you know who I am?" He goes, "Yeah, how's it going?" Like it was just so easy and natural, just walking down the street for. If you saw that clip, it's hilarious. I
just want to say, I always used to say when Michael Jackson would rent out a mall, right? So he wouldn't be surrounded by people. He'd rent out a mall. And I always say, like, you have two choices. You could be Michael Jackson, but Michael Jackson didn't have to be that way. If Michael Jackson was just kind of cool with people and laid back with people, they wouldn't be swarming you. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you decide to be Madonna and surround yourself with 7 bodyguards, people are going to treat you like a celebrity freak with 7 bodyguards. If you decide to be like Shaq and just be a man of the people, they're actually going to respect you and respect your boundaries. So I just think Shaq, him, Snoop, Dolly Parton, they all get it.
Which is incredible too, Jeff, that you say that, because that's exactly how he was. And that's how he is to this day. Like we would be in cities and he just want to go to the movies on a Friday night in Cleveland. And I'm like, check, we can't go to the movies on a Friday night because it's going to be a mob scene. Like he wants to, in the middle of the afternoon in Sacramento, he wants to go to the mall. I'm like, Shaq, we can't go to the mall because we're not going to get out of there. But he was like, don't worry about it, we going. And we would go. Yeah. And it wouldn't really be that big of a deal because there isn't anyone that I know that's more comfortable in their skin than he is.
I envy him. I swear to God, when I see Shaq, like I'm freaking out about the election, just as an example. And I'm like, oh, it's all going to blah, 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 right? I feel like Shaq is like, it'll work out one way or another. We'll figure it out. And like, we'll be okay. And like, you know what? I'll look out for you. You look out. Like, I envy that level of inner confidence and peace. I really do. And I just think it's amazing. And the goodness he brings to people and the happiness he bestows on people, it's just rare.
Jeff, where can they find you? If the people that are watching this interview, if they're looking for you, where can we find Jeff Pearlman at?
Well, right now I'm outside the yoga studio, but you
with
can
Tupac and Biggie, by the way.
Yeah, and Young MC. But I have a website, jeffpearlman.com. My new thing is weirdly, as you know, is TikTok and Jeff Pearlman author. I love TikTok. Who knew? I love Twitter and love TikTok. So there you
go. Hey, listen, we met on TikTok.
I know.
So we loved it. 4 years later, it worked out real well.
It worked out great for you guys. It's amazing.
This is what we're doing.
It's awesome. So listen, man, appreciate you, Jeff. Thank you for taking the time. Say hi to Pac and Biggie and everybody for me. Enjoy your yoga. And
ladies and gentlemen,
check out the book and stay positive.
Good stuff.
Thank you guys so much.
This is really good stuff, man. This guy's a really good author. So
all right,
thanks, Jeff. Appreciate you, brother. That was good stuff, Tone. Absolutely, man. Yes.
I love that shirt.
When I saw that shirt, I'm like, that's Tone right there. Him and Tone is best friends because this is Tone. Tone is a troll, and this dude is right there with him. I can see you wearing that too, Tone. I'm gonna have to find that shirt. If I find that shirt, I'm sending it to you. If I find that shirt, I'm sending it to you.
Whoever finds it first, double XL, send it my way. If I find it first, it's coming. I love that shirt.
Unbelievable.
Oh my gosh. Okay. We're gonna get to sports, I promise. Yep. But Favorite part of all of that?
Just finding out what type of journalist he is. Because again, Tone, a lot of these TMC and these tabloid journalists, they don't really care about the story. They just care about clicks. They care about views. They don't care about the actual truth. And Jeff seems like he actually cares about getting to the bottom of things and getting to the truth.
There was something he said, right? There was something he said a couple of times. He's like, I couldn't put it in the book because I couldn't get it verified.
Yep.
Whereas I would 100% throw it out there and see what happens. You know, I've done that before and gotten in trouble. I will throw it out there and see what reaction I get.
Yep.
He's like, that's why what he does in his books, that's why there's such good reads, because you know he's talked to the people. And I really liked what he said about, listen, of course you want to talk to Shaq and Kobe and Phil about the Shaq, Kobe and Phil book, but you need to talk to with Mark Madsen. You need to talk with Samaki Walker, because they see it from that different perspective where they were in the room. But you know, sometimes it's hard to be self-aware. It's sometimes hard to see yourself in that moment. But Samaki Walker's sitting there watching and be like, oh yeah, I saw those two. We knew they were going to fight because da-da-da-da-da. You know what I mean? Like, we could see the tension. And so I thought that was crazy. The Norm Nixon one, of course, was not. But the Walter Payton ring, could you imagine?
Oh my God, Tom. For him to do that, that is nuts right there.
I have an acquaintance with Jarrett Payton, Walter's son. And I say an acquaintanceship because we're connected on social media, but we message back and forth every once in a while because obviously he loves his dad. I love his dad.
Of course.
And we both love the Bears. So, you know, we have common ground. And so, you know, it's one of those every 6 months or so, hey, how are things going? Da-da-da-da-da type of things. And I honestly don't know. I wonder if he knows that. I'm going to share that. I don't know if he knows that story. I wonder if he got because I don't know if Jeff even knows what happened. What happened to the ring after? Like, did he have to buy it? Did it go on auction? Like,
he probably doesn't. And like I said, Tone, I'm a big fan of journalists. Soon as he was talking to us about, you know, talking to Samaki Walker and talking to Ron Harp and talking to guys like that, I'm a big time crime buff guy, Tone. And I remember listening to a show about John Gotti, and one of the main ways that they got to John Gotti was the third, not John Gotti's right-hand man. No, not him. They got to him by his third and fourth wise guy. Those are the guys that they're after, because those are the guys who are going to give it up.
Do you watch the show Tulsa Kings?
I've seen one episode of it, and I want to get into that show. I heard that show is really good.
You got to get into it because it's interesting. I'm not going to spoil it. Well, maybe I will spoil it a little bit when I say this, but so Sylvester Stallone goes to Tulsa, right? And whatever. And eventually he gets a crew together. And without spoiling it, I'll say somebody is trying to take him down, and he doesn't go for his right-hand man, his third hand, fourth hand. He takes the guy that's kind of like almost bottom of the totem pole and starts to just be nice to him, and then gives him a little money to help him out, and then starts poking him for information. And then when he fights back, he's like, I own you. And it's just like, that's where, right? You don't chop down a tree from the top.
No, you don't. Right from the bottom. That's how you get.
So we talked about the Nuggets. We talked about the Nuggets being in trouble. I think we all agree they're in trouble. I think so. Two things. We talked about analytics and 3-point shooting. There's another thing that I think troubles me with the NBA, and that affects the Nuggets, is once you win, people start taking your players.
They 100% do. You become a company that gets rated. That starts
to chip away at the team too. And it allows, the good thing is, it allows the younger teams to start picking things up. And there's a team in the East, in Cleveland, that you've been high on. You convinced me last year to buy into them, and originally I said they're a year away. But you got me in. You got me in. They look good. It's early, but they look good. Are they legit?
Tom, what it reminds me of is, it reminds me of those franchises that build it from the bottom. Okay, this is who we're going to start it with. We're going to start it with this guy, And okay, we got our point guard. Then we're gonna go get a big guy. Okay, we got a big guy. Now we're gonna go get a wing. Okay, we got a wing. Now we got to get the right coaching. The right coaching here is going to be at the end. But okay, now we got the superstar who kind of accelerated the process. Who kind of accelerated the process. But in the process of us doing that, we have our core guys, and we're going to build it with our core guys. Tone, remember 2 years ago in the 22 season, the year that they get Darius Garland. I mean, the year that they get Donovan Mitchell. Okay, we have Darius Garland. He's 21 years old. We got Jared Allen. He's 22 years old. We got Mobley. He's 20 years old. Right? We got Isaac Okoro. He's 20 years old. We got a bunch of kids on rook deals, and we're building something with this crew. And JB Bickerstaff's a damn good coach. One of the things I found out when you're dealing with young coaches, when you're dealing with young teams, the coach that you have originally, he's probably not going to be there for the no. He's probably not going to be there for the long run. He's the gap guy until we get close. And then we're going to get a guy to push us over the top. Can I say that that's Kenny Atkinson with 100% certainty, Tone? I can't say that. But what I can say is they're getting close. They're 100% getting close. They're fourth in the league in defense. They're fourth in the league in defense. They're one of the best rebounding teams in the league. They're one of the best long ball shooting teams in the league. They're one of the best long ball defending teams in the league. They're one of the best rim protecting teams in the league. That's what their mantra is. And they have a superstar guard in Donovan Mitchell. This team, I wouldn't be surprised, Tone, if they win the East Finals this year. That would not surprise me.
I know you can do this, and so it's not like I'm giving you a tough trivia question.
Sure.
Name me the last 5 NBA champions and their coach.
So the last 5 NBA champions, that would go back to 1920. Is that correct? So that's the Lakers, and that was Vogel.
Gone.
In 21, that's Bud for Milwaukee.
Gone.
And then in 22, the Warriors won it. That's Steve Kerr.
Still there.
In 23, the Nuggets won it. Mike Malone.
Still there.
And then last year the Celtics won it, and that's Mazzola.
Yeah, well, you can't go last year. And if you go back another year, it was the
Nick
Raptors
Nurse.
with Nick
And
Nurse,
Nick Nurse.
gone.
Yep. That's 60% of the guys.
Coaches nowadays,
Yep.
the days of even Greg Popovich, who's maybe the lone survivor of the old way,
Sure.
the Red Auerbachs of the world, like those days are done. Where a coach takes a team to championship status, maybe has a down year or a couple, and rebuilds, and it's gone. Now the coaches, I feel, are brought in for stages of the team, and so a coach comes in and has a voice and gets them to a certain point. And unfortunately, whether it's the player, the coach, the world, the system, I don't know, they stop hearing it. And so they have to bring in the next person to, like.
That's a real thing, Tone. That is a real. I didn't think it was. To be honest with you, I really didn't think it was. I always thought that, this is the guy that we're rolling with, and we'll figure it out with him. But what you just said, that is a real thing. 100% it is.
And that's what it is. The second he kind of loses the locker room, even a little bit, it's who's the next guy that can take that. It doesn't even have to be a better coach. Like, I don't think Nick Nurse is significantly better than Dwayne Casey.
Right.
But Dwayne Casey got him to a point. Of course, other things, trades, players, whatever. Nick Nurse took that and took it to the next step. Steve Kerr. Is Steve Kerr that much of a better coach than
Mark Jackson?
Than Mark Jackson?
I don't think he's a better coach at all, Tone, to be honest with you.
I don't think so either.
I think that was his team.
It was his team, and it was that different voice that gave him a little bit of a difference that now propelled them forward. So I think you're right. Is Kenny Atkinson that guy for the Cavs? I don't know.
Sure.
But it's certain things, unfortunately, like that's what we've seen nowadays. And that's why I brought up, if you go back, you can't use the last couple of years because it's too soon. But if you go back, almost every team that won a championship, with the exception of Kerr and Malone, again, I'm not using Mazzola because it was just last year.
Right.
They're all gone. They've all, and they're not bad coaches. They're all coaching other places.
You can actually use Mazzola because that was Ime's team. Ime was the one who screwed it up.
True. Yeah.
Ime was the guy who was supposed to be coaching that team to the NBA championship. If you think about the Bulls, Tone, in the mid '80s, going into the '90s, you had Stan, and then from Stan you had Doug Collins, and then Doug Collins gets them to the East Finals. Then Phil Jackson shows up and they win the NBA championship. Prime example, we talked about Rudy Tomjanovich. Well, before Rudy Tomjanovich took over, Don Chaney was the guy. Don Chaney was the guy in Houston. So more times than not, the guy who wins the NBA championship, there's somebody else before him that basically built this building up to like floor. It's a 10-story building. He built it up to like floor 7. And then this guy comes in and builds the rest of it. That's usually what happens.
Can I quick question? Who's diet fluent?
We get diet him mostly. Yeah, maybe talking about Penn, maybe. I don't know. Even though I like Penn. I do. I like Penn. Penn gives some really good insight.
Whoever he is, he ain't no me. Speaking of bad coaches, what did I tell you last year about the Milwaukee Bucks and how long Doc Rivers would last?
You thought this was a disaster, Tone, right from the beginning. You
18 and 22 since he arrived, starting this season 1-3. If the Bucks could, I don't know if the Bucks could make more bad moves if they tried to make bad moves.
This is bad, Toad. I'm not gonna lie to you. This is. You got Giannis talking about, right now we suck. We're not very good. Yes, we suck. And you got a coach who you hired, who was a consultant last year because you pushed out the other guy.
Who consulted you to push out the other guy who you just hired 5 seconds ago.
By the way, who wasn't bad, by the way. Adrian Griffin was not bad. In fact, they were rolling with him in the lineup, right? They were rolling with him as the coach. It just was a difficult transition. I don't think that was his job. I thought that his job was probably Toronto. If I'm being honest with you, I thought that may have been his job.
I was begging for them to hire him in Toronto, and when he went to Milwaukee, I was begging them not to trade away Drew Holiday because I'm telling you right now, if Griffin is coaching that team and they don't trade for Dame Lillard, that's a better team.
It is.
And I stress the point, better team.
Yep.
Right. We started to allude to it a little bit before Jeff joined us, was that we've forgotten that this is a team sport. And just because you have the best player in the NBA, arguably, doesn't necessarily make you the best team, because every team has to have role players, which includes their superstars. Like the superstar has to play their role correctly. It has to have actual, like, what we consider role players that just do one thing, maybe.
Yep. And
they have to have an identity. They have to have a team that, we're a 3-point shooting team, but all we do is drive. Oh, that's not going to work.
No.
Right? So they have to have an identity. And I think we forget that it's team. This Milwaukee Bucks team is not good. Their coaching is not good. What do you think's the first thing we seek? Listen, we've already heard Giannis saying about being on another team in the near future.
Well, here's the problem with that. One, he's going to have to ask out. They're not dumping him. Let's get to the bottom of that right now. But number two, when you lose Drew Holiday, you lose your identity, because that's who they were. They were a defensive team who could score. That's what their mantra was. Because if you remember, before they got Drew Holiday, they still had those pieces. Take out Eric Bledsoe, enter Drew Holiday. I do everything that you do, except better. I'm actually the perfect piece. You're just replacing Eric Bledsoe with him, set better. That's all you're doing. And they did the same thing in Boston. You're replacing Marcus Smart with Marcus Smart, set better. That's all you're doing. So in Milwaukee, now if you're replacing Damian Lillard, if you're replacing Drew Holiday with Damian Lillard, you're replacing apples and oranges, because those two guys are two completely different players. Not only are they two completely different players, Damian Lillard as a defender, who, by the way, Tone, I actually saw him give me some effort defensively last night. That doesn't mean that that's going to change anything, but you have to have people around him to protect him. I never bought into the idea of hiding guys. Tone, we live in an information age. We know who you are. We know that you can't defend. We know where you're weak. We know where you're weak. So because we know where you're weak, we have to have guys to protect that. So Milwaukee's starting small forward. He's in Phoenix. His name's Ryan Dunn. That was the guy that Milwaukee passed on. Well, the reason why he's in Phoenix, because the 23 other teams that passed on him, or the 25 other teams that passed on him, they didn't know he could shoot. That's not the point. The point is that you needed wing defense. That's what you needed more than anything. And he's the best wing defender in the draft. That's somebody who could protect Damian Lillard. And you passed on that. That makes them vulnerable. You watched them last night, Tone. They're not very good defensively, and they have nobody to protect Damian Lillard, which is why I think that they're fool's gold. Did I lose him? I think Tone froze up. Yep. But Tone will be back in a second. But that's one of the main reasons why I think that they are that. So yeah, Tone froze up for a second, but he's back. But that's one of the main reasons why I think that they're fool's gold. When you replace this with something completely different, you still have to get the other stuff. I can't just throw the furniture out in my house if I'm gonna and replace it with just chairs. No. I can't do that.
And my apologies. The Wi-Fi in the hotel is, it's been pretty good, but we had a moment. You asked me a question. Did Milwaukee make a mistake? And again, I'll just say they made multiple mistakes. I think everything they did, from the draft, from trades, from personnel, coaching, I think the only thing they did right was keep Giannis. But that's a no-brainer. Like, duh. But I mean, I would have been off of Chris Middleton 2 years ago. I would have been on Drew Holiday. I never would have let him go. Like, I really think sometimes you think too much. And I think they overthought this, and they made mistakes because they were trying to be smart.
What do you think they overthought of that, Tone? So when you talk about Milwaukee overthinking, because we've seen teams they overthink stuff. Where do you think Milwaukee overthought this? Where
so you have it could have been simple. You have a team that won an NBA championship.
Okay, we got the formula.
You got the formula.
Okay, we got the formula.
The coach, I guess you decide the coach has lost the locker room. And instead of saying, hey, let's tweak it, you say, hey, let's make a big splash, bring in a big name, change the identity of the team. And that's what teams do when they're struggling. That's what teams do when, like, if the best they ever could do was get to the Eastern Conference Championship and they were out, right? We talked about Portland with Dame. The year after they made it to the Western Conference, they probably should have started looking at how to blow it up and change it, right? Sure. Because it wasn't working. Instead, they rolled with the same thing and it didn't work.
Yep.
Well, you had a formula that worked. And really, what was the biggest issue the year after the Bucks won that kept them from winning again?
It was injuries. It was Middleton getting injured. That was it. I think if Middleton doesn't get hurt, I think they right back in it again. I do.
So maybe I should be looking for a scoring perimeter player to replace Middleton. That's not what they did. So that's what I'm saying is they overthought it. And they tried to get cute. They tried to make a splash.
Yep.
And go James King to make it. They couldn't allow. Here, I'll put this because it's right. They couldn't allow the Heat to get Lillard. Why not? That's not our formula, right? Like, you don't see Pepsi and Coke steal the other one's recipe. No, they fiddle around with their own.
Well, what we got over here is clearly working. Now, I understand that, okay, we might not be able to give you this ingredient or that ingredient, but we don't care about Drew Holiday. We don't care about Damian Lillard in Miami. Why do we care about that when what we're doing in Milwaukee is working? Why do we care about that? We shouldn't care about that.
It shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter. And since we're talking about Miami, I saw you and Johnny from Go James Kingdom in Miami.
Yep.
And so I'm a little confused. So they unveiled a statue in Miami. I don't know who was that. Who was that? Was that Udonis Haslem? Like, who was that player?
No, that was Dwyane Wade.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, that was Dwyane Wade.
No, it wasn't.
That was Dwyane Wade. Yes, sir.
That was Dwyane Wade if Fluent Jr. drew a picture of him.
Yeah, with the
that's really, really bad.
Yeah, that was Dwyane Wade. But here's the thing, though, Tone. Like, when whether it's the Hall of Fame, whether it's statues outside of
Johnny. Sorry, Johnny.
Whether it's statues outside
Sorry,
of the
Johnny.
arena,
I say everybody's name wrong, bro. Everybody's. Go ahead, sir.
whether it's statues outside, whether it's the Hall of Fame, it doesn't make a difference. They consult with these people. Tone, if you're going into the Hall of Fame and they make a bust of you, they don't just make a bust of you and then they just show it to you.
There's no way they showed this
that looks
to Dwyane
wild.
Wade, and he said, "Yeah, that looks about right." There's no way that anyone showed Cristiano Ronaldo this, and he said, "Yeah, that looks about right." There is no way. Okay, this little we already talked about Little Allen Iverson. Forget that one.
Mm-hmm.
There is no way. Do you know who Harry Carey is?
I do know who. I actually had dinner in Harry Carey's restaurant in Chicago.
That's not him. You know my favorite Harry Carey line? If the moon was made out of spare ribs, would you eat it? I'm like, hell yeah, I would.
Yes, we would. But that's the thing, though, Tone. When
that's not Andy Murray.
When I think, well, that doesn't look much like him. But what the point I was making, Tone, is these people like Dwyane Wade, when they made this statue, they stepped to him. Okay, D, what do you think? What do we need to change here? What needs to be changed with the facial features, because it was essentially it was an action. It wasn't just him just standing there. It was an action that was him jumping on it. Yeah. I remember that vividly. It was him jumping on the table when he played against the Bulls, when he hit that half-court shot. Sure. He jumped on the table. This is my house, and that depicted him. That depicted who he is, right? This is my house, and they showed that to him, and he was like, "Yep, let's do it. That's me." It wasn't like he saw it and was like, "This is terrible." No, he 100% gave a thumbs up with that.
I don't know. He did say, "Who is that?"
It's him.
He did say, "Who is that?" I don't know. Maybe he was joking. So I'm gonna stay. Let's stay in Florida.
Yep.
The Magic, the truth.
I tell you what, Tone. Defensively, they look like the truth. I 100 will tell you that. Defensively, they look like one of the best teams in the league. Not only do they look like one of the best teams in the league defensively, I'm not in love with their offense, but I like it better than I did last year. I wasn't a fan of how their offense looks like it's further away from the basket and they don't really get downhill. But that was just an anomaly in the game that I watched. I mean, France can get downhill. Paolo can get downhill. I'd like to see Suggs be more of a creator and a distributor, more of that, because I feel like if he can unlock that, that can unlock even more of what Paolo is. Paolo looked this season more like he's taking advantage of his size, which I don't think he did that in years past. Like Paolo's 6'10", 250. Like that's not a small dude. So for him to take advantage of his size, I mean, that puts a real strain on other teams' defense. His ability to get downhill. Plus, I didn't realize how good of a passer he was. I found that out about him last year. Once I found out how good he was as a passer, that became even a bigger deal, right? I mean, they ended up losing Paolo in the game that they played. They ended up losing. I'm sorry. I think it was France because he ended up being sick. But I love their rotations. I love KCP. I love Jonathan Isaac. I love Suggs. I'm a big fan of their backup lead guard in Cole Anthony. A lot of people don't like him. I like him as a backup lead guard. I think that a lot of people, when they see backup lead guards, they expect you immediately to come off the bench and do what the lead guard is doing. No, that's not the way that works. That's not the way that works. Your job as the backup lead guard is to keep the ship afloat. That's it, not sink us. And that's what Cole Anthony does. He keeps the ship afloat. He gives you 12, 13 points off the bench and gives you solid minutes, and he's going to compete on defense. I think that's great with this team. They're a really good rebounding team. I'd like to see them play a little bit faster, but I think that's going to come throughout the course of the season. Tone, I got them at the 5th seed. I think they're going to make some noise. I think they're going to make a lot of noise this year.
The question is obviously going to be, has Orlando found their franchise player?
Mm-hmm.
I think he's 28-6 early so far this season. And I really like Banchero.
Mm-hmm.
Can he be in 3 years the best player on a championship team? That's where I struggle.
Right.
Now, that doesn't mean he won't be great. It doesn't mean they won't have deep playoff runs. It doesn't mean they won't be a good team.
Mm-hmm.
But when I think of a franchise player, an untradeable piece, again, my bar is always very high on all this stuff.
Yes.
I think, is he a player that cannot be traded because he is a team that can be the number one on the championship team? And if he's not,
yep.
What are we doing?
Well, you never.
What are we doing? When I say what are we doing, I'm not saying blow it up and get rid of him.
Right.
I'm saying, are we just trying to bring pieces around him to help elevate him? Are we happy just making 2 rounds into the playoffs? Are we like maybe that's enough to sell tickets in Orlando? I don't know. Are we scared like everybody else in Orlando that once he has this break, let's say this is his breakout season, bye-bye.
I don't think he's going to leave them. No, I don't think that that's the case. What I do think, though, is I think that they recognize we got to do everything that we can to hold on to him. Whatever it takes to hold on to Paolo Banchero, we have to do it because his upside is a lot better than a lot of other young guys in the league. A lot better. You can pay him the most. Not in addition to you being able to pay him the most, he's also one of those guys who his game is going to age like wine. There aren't many guys who I look at and I go, yo, your game is going to age really well. I don't think Luka's game is going to age that well. And I'm in the minority when I think about that.
You don't think Luka's game's going to age that well?
The reason why, Tone, is I feel like when I look at what's going on,
he's like an old man already.
Well, not only and I think that as he ages, I think that that's going to be. I think that that's going to be to his detriment ultimately, because as good as he is, I mean, don't get me wrong, as good as Bird was, as good as Bird was, Bird did so many other things that made him viable. I mean, Luka's just only on the offensive side of the ball, and like it's already a consensus that he doesn't take care of his body.
Isn't that everybody?
That's what it is today. Yeah,
let's be honest.
And I think that's going to change.
You got Giannis.
Yep.
You got Giannis of the top 10 players.
Yep.
How many of them play all NBA defense?
Giannis, Anthony Davis. That's it. I mean,
you got Anthony Davis. You got Anthony Davis in your top 10?
I do. Yes, I think Anthony Davis is a top 10 player. Yes, and on top of Anthony Davis, I think Jason Tatum is playing all NBA defense. I don't know if he's going to make the all league defensive team, but he's playing at that level. I feel like he's playing at that level this year. However, what they have with Paolo is they have somebody who at 6'10", 260, he's going to get better. The game's going to slow down for him. I feel like his game is going to age really well. And he's a guy on that roster that they can't afford to lose. They can't afford to start over with France. They can't.
Well, listen, there was one thing I didn't ask Jeff. For those that are just tuning in now, Jeff Pearlman, who wrote a bunch of wonderful books about the NBA and most recently has one coming out. It's not even out yet. We don't even have a date. It'll be out in 2025. His Tupac bio. He wrote a Walter Payton bio. He won Lakers Showtime, which became Winning Time, the TV show. I keep forgetting the name of the one he wrote about Kobe. 3-Ring Circus with Kobe, Shaq, and Phil. I don't know why that 3-Ring Circus should be easy to remember, and it's not. He was on earlier, so feel free to rewind and watch that. But I wanted to ask him about Dominique Wilkins suggesting or flat out saying that the NBA is rigged. That the NBA is rigged. That they basically subbed out him and others to allow David Robinson to go for 70 and win a scoring title.
What? Hey, Tone, are you kidding me right now?
I'll play you the clip. If I can.
What?
I don't remember in the game. That backstory on the history. I remember that 70. I remember that being Mark Jackson or Ron Harper. They tell you, wow. Yeah. Donald Sterling.
Don't tell me this, Dominique.
What?
Rigging games. Well, I don't know. Is it even rigging? Is it rigging to say they took their starters out? Is it?
Yes.
The last game of the season?
Yes, because he's essentially going against David Robinson is going against second and third unit guy. He's going against Bo Outlaw. That's who he's going against, right? He's going against those guys in order to get the scoring championship. Why they didn't want Shaq to win it is still beyond me. Shaq is in year 2. Why can't Shaq be the leading scorer in year 2? I was
told that they wanted it to stay in the West.
In 94?
Yeah. Because the Bulls had been dominating.
Yep.
Right. It had been all about the East.
Yep.
And so they wanted to have something in the West.
Wow. Well, you should love this because Tone is a big time conspiracy theorist. And
well, I want you to give me a definitive answer. Is going against the third and fourth, whatever string guys, rigging it for him to score 70 and win the scoring title?
Yes, 100% it is. Absolutely. If David Robinson needs, I don't know, let's say tonight we play the Clippers tonight and Shaq and I are virtually tied, and in order for me to win the scoring championship, in order for me to win the scoring title, I need to go for 55 tonight. I'd find out going into tonight's game that I'm not playing against their starting 5-man. I'm not playing against their backup. I'm playing against their third string 5-man. I'm thinking to myself, I'm going for 60 tonight. 100%. I'm not going up against I'm not just going up against their third string 5-man. I'm going up against their second and third string small forward and power forward. I'm absolutely going for 60 tonight. 100%. There's no reason why I shouldn't be able to do this, considering who you have out here on the floor tonight. There's no reason why I shouldn't be able to do this, and I'm doing it. So yes, it was fixed in order for me to get this. Because would I get 71 if I look at the Clippers roster, right? If I look at the Clippers roster
let me ask you. So the Clippers at the time, are 27 and 54.
Garbage.
They're
Trash.
done. They're out. The Spurs are 54 and 27.
Mm-hmm. The Spurs
on your Clippers team. Okay, on your Clippers team is Dominique Wilkins.
Yep.
Who has gone 6 of 17. He's shooting 35%. Ron Harper, who's gone 2 of 6, 33%. Mark Jackson, who is 1 of 6, shooting 17%. You don't sub them off and you're down. Like, they were losing by a lot. You don't sub them off in the third quarter, fourth quarter.
So we just take those guys out. As bad as they were shooting, right?
They suck anyways. You're losing anyways. You're not going anywhere anyways. Like, if that is rigged, then you have to admit that Will Chamberlain's 100-point game is rigged, because he was also going against third and fourth string centers, because one didn't show up, the other fouled out, the other one was shooting target practice in the arcade outside of the game. Is that rigged too?
It may be, Tone, and
finally, yes.
It may very well be rigged, and the reason why I'm saying that, is so some nights you need some things to go your way. If we're being honest, all right. If we're being honest, you need some things to go your way. And this team that they're going up against, San Antonio, like you just said, right? This San Antonio team, like you just said, as bad as they were. I'm not San Antonio. I'm sorry. This Clipper team, as bad as they were, I mean, Dominique Wilkins was still getting buckets that year.
Yeah, but they had 20. It was the last game of the season. They had 26 wins. They were 27 wins. They're done.
Right.
And let me give you some more. Let me give you some more stats. So Dominique is shooting horribly, 35%. I've already told you. Harper 33%. Sure. Mark Jackson 16%.
Right.
Your guy, Terry DeHare,
yep.
10 of 17. 59%. Harold Ellis, 6 of 15. So the other guys who are coming off the bench are actually making shots. Why don't you let them play the last game of the season when you've only won 25?
But I'm going against Randy Woods and John Williams and like Bo Outlaw. So I'm not going against Elmore Spencer. He only played. I only think, did Elmore Spencer even play that night? I don't even know if he played that night.
He played 5 minutes.
This is what I'm talking about, Tone. Like Elmore Spencer didn't even play that night. Who else was on? I think Stanley Roberts was on that team. He didn't play. I'm not even sure if he played that night. Right.
He's not. He's not on
right.
the team.
So as bad as they were, and like you just talked about with Mark Jackson and Dominique Wilkins, as bad as they played, well, they didn't play that much. So we didn't even get a chance to see if he could shoot himself. Like, now what you told me,
Dominique played 21 minutes.
Tone, that's barely a quarter. That's barely a quarter and a half. 21 minutes. That's not even half the game. That's barely half the game right there. How many minutes you told me Mark Jackson played?
If he played 8 minutes in the first, 8 minutes in the second, 5 minutes in the third, and it was a blowout, so they took him out.
And he just said that they told him, "Yo, you got to come out the game."
Why
do I have to come out the game? Because this 6 for 17, as you told me, in 21 minutes and 16 points in 21 minutes, Nick would have definitely went for 35 that night. The way he was rolling,
he was jacking up shots and missing them all.
Yes, and
why not? As a coach, your team's out. You have nothing to play for. You're getting blown out. Your starters stink. You don't bring in your young guys. Like how if I tell you the ages of these guys, you don't. I know Bo Outlaw was probably young. You don't bring in Bo Outlaw and these guys to see what they can do.
So we just let David Robinson go for 60 or 70 on us. You think that every time I hear about the 81-point game, them dudes ain't happy about Kobe getting 80 on them? No, they weren't happy about that at all. And Toronto was garbage. They were doing everything that they could.
The Lakers were garbage too.
They made the playoffs that year. They did. They 100% made the playoffs.
I don't know.
In the 05-06 season, they lost in the first round.
At the time, I was at that game. At that time, you know why I got tickets? Because no one wanted to go see that game because at the time they both were terrible.
Right.
At the time.
Nobody knew that Kobe was going to go for 81. But I'm just
if I was LeBron James, I tell you, I had a feeling that he was going to go off for like 70 or more. But even that is untrue. Who did he score the 81 on?
Jalen Rose, Chris Bosh, Mo Peterson.
Morris Peterson is the one that had the most points scored against him, and we all pick on Jalen Rose.
That was the first unit guy, though. Mo Peterson was a starter. Tone, this team, this San Antonio team, David Robinson is going up against Elmore Spencer and Bo Outlaw and Randy Woods and guys like that hardly ever play. And they're going up against the number one seed. They're going up against the number one seed in the Western Conference in 94. They were number 3 seed. I'm sorry, because at that point, not San Antonio. Seattle was the number 1 seed. Houston was the number 2 seed. I think San Antonio was number 3 seed. But with that being said, if we got a team coming in here that's that good, why are we just laying down for them? Which is what they did. The reason why we laying down for them is because this thing is fixed. Dominique wanted to play. It wasn't like Dominique didn't want to play. Mark Jackson wanted to play. How many minutes you told me he played? 16, 15 minutes? That's barely
21.
No. I'm talking about Mark Jackson.
Oh, Mark Jackson played. Yeah, 16 minutes. 16
so he barely played. He barely played more than a quarter. Barely. These dudes laid down for the San Antonio Spurs, and they laid down for the San Antonio Spurs. Not because, let's get these other guys some run. We could have got these other guys some run in games before this. We could have got these other guys some run in games previous to this. It's a coincidence that we're going to get these guys some run on the night that the scoring champ, who can potentially win the scoring title, is coming in here. He's going to put 70 on us. Really? We doing that? No.
I think it's personal. I think it's personal because it was Shaq.
Maybe. Tom.
Let me. We haven't done this in a while, so let me throw. Bam. Let me throw the link in the chat. See what everybody else thinks. Do you think he really had Tupac in the car with him?
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And Jada?
I don't know if Jada was there. She if she
think,
was
do you
there,
think, do you think Will would tell Tupac to get Jada's name out his damn effing mouth?
No, he would not have. Mm-mm. He doesn't want anything to do with Pac, and Pac ain't even like that. But I don't think he would have done that. Mm-mm.
Why?
No.
Why is it that that video of him, that interview with him when he was like 13, 14, whatever it was, why is that popping up all over the place now, you think?
The reason why is because of what, I mean, one, we got an election year, and with us having an election year, yeah, I know this sounds ridiculous, but we got an election year, and this is what the black culture is promoting. And this is who this is what Kamala Harris is also a part of. And if you want this to continue, if this is going to continue, if Kamala Harris is in office, which couldn't be further from the truth. So they're basically reaching, in politics, you reach for straws. You do everything you possibly can to make people have an image of what you think it is. I mean, fear strikes a lot of heat in a lot of people. It does. It strikes a lot of fear in a lot of people. What is going on with the what's going on in the Dallas what's going on in the Dallas Minnesota game, Tony? I want to really quickly find out. Okay, we got a 5-point game with 5 minutes, and I mean, I think Anthony Edwards had like 20 points in the first quarter, so he got busy. Yeah, he did do that. So
you also have 7 minutes left in the Nuggets and Nets game. Not that you want to watch that game, but this just proves to me that the Nuggets are garbage because they're down 1 to the Nets.
I mean, the Nets just beat Milwaukee a couple of nights ago.
But we've already established Milwaukee stinks.
We have already established that Milwaukee stinks. So let me ask you this question, Tone. Does Milwaukee stink? Does Denver stink? Or is Brooklyn better than we think they are?
Brooklyn and let me rephrase. Milwaukee and Denver stink. And I know it's early, but man, do I feel good about what I told you about the Knicks sitting in the 8th seed right now.
Man, that's not that just doesn't look like it doesn't look like something that could turn into something else. And I know it's early, right? I know it's early. We just got started, but the way that Cat is being used as the stretch big, sure. I mean, that's kind of what you hoping that it would be.
He's a stretch big, but they don't have a big.
No, they don't. Mm-hmm.
You need someone.
Yes. Julius Randle's looking a lot better in Minnesota than
I told you that too.
Yes, Julius Randle is looking a lot better in Minnesota. I'm really liking what I'm seeing from Julius Randle right now. Yes. And I didn't think that anybody won this trade in particular. And the reason why I'm saying I didn't think that anybody won this trade in particular, Tone, because usually when you have trades like this, you don't find out who the winner of the trade is until years later. Like, we ain't find out when Danny Ainge handed over Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce and Jason Terry and DJ White, for 3 ones, right? We didn't think that it was a big deal then until one of those ones turned into Jaylen Brown, and the other one turned into Jason Tatum, and the other one was a pick swap.
Don't even remind me, because both Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown picked 3rd.
Yeah.
Right. And what team had the 2nd pick both years?
The Lakers.
The Lakers. How good would the Lakers have looked?
Yeah. The Lakers. You got Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Yes, you do. Would have looked much better. And the fact that that one of those picks turns into Jaylen Brown, another one of those picks turns into Jason Tatum, and in the 2018, which was a pick swap, and you end up drafting Colin Sexton and using that pick to get Kyrie Irving. Like, that's how we find out, what this trade looks like years later, as opposed to, as of right now, when we talked about Rudy Gobert getting traded to Rudy Gobert getting traded from Utah to Minnesota. It was the worst trade in NBA history. Like, wait a minute. We don't know what this trade is going to look like. We don't know what this trade looks like right now. We can find out in another 5 years what this trade is going to look like. We can never know right from the beginning what these trades are going to look like. Mm-mm.
So, it's an hour later here in Halifax.
Yep.
Which means it's almost 11 o'clock, which means it's almost my bedtime.
Yep.
What game are you doing tonight on playback?
I'm doing the Warriors Pels game tonight.
So that starts in
about 15 minutes.
In about 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything we forgot to cover? Because I might let. Oh yeah, I know what we forgot. Did you see this?
This the super chat, subscribe.
No, above it. Do you not see this? Do you not see the Sports Fluent TV logo?
I was just about to say that. Is it the FS Sports Fluent TV with the microphone in the back? I like that, Tone. And
it's actually, a microphone, a basketball, football.
It's actually over here.
Oh, it's over here.
Yeah, a little bit there. That's where it's at, right there.
On my side, it's here. Okay, so it's here.
It's right there. Yep. Mm-hmm. That's
weird,
where it is.
It's here for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, your favorite thing created that, right?
What's my favorite thing?
AI.
Oh boy, here we go with the AI stuff. Oh boy.
So I'm gonna leave you with this. Oh yeah, we'll talk about that. Bubba G, we're gonna talk about that. Okay, we're gonna talk about that. Did you see Elon Musk's robots that look like the robots from iRobot?
No.
They come into your house and they clean the tables and they
ain't no robots coming in my house, Tone. No, they not.
I'm gonna buy you one.
No, you're not buying me no robots, Tone. You're not. Yeah, hey, Tone, I swear.
I'm buying you one.
A robot better not knock on my door.
You're gonna see right behind that door right there. It's gonna
Tone, if I get a knock on my door and it's a robot.
I won't say your last name, but the robot will be hello, Mr. Dub. What would you like me to do for you today?
Tone,
would you like some fresh fruits?
No.
Would you like some vegetables?
No, I would not. What I would like is for you to get away from my door. Get this damn thing away from my door, Tone. You better not buy me no robot. You better not. Tone.
So we had a moment. Thoughts on Shaq and Angel Reese thing?
Bubba, that's tablet again. Yo, we just had Jeff Pearlman on here. That's who we just had on here. I don't do TMZ stuff. I don't do that Diddy stuff. I don't care about that stuff. I don't. Shaq making an off comment to Angel Reese and her not liking it. I don't care about that stuff.
Okay, hold on. I thought it was just about the interview in general. So did I miss? I maybe missed a piece.
No, what he wants to talk about is he wants to talk about Shaq talking about her in those shorts being able to dunk the basketball, and she didn't appreciate Shaq talking about her like that. That's what he wants to talk about. I don't care about that stuff. That's gossip. I don't do gossip. I don't.
Then don't wear the shorts.
I don't care about that. I just don't. And if that's what you're looking for, this isn't the place for that. I don't care about that stuff. I don't. I do not care about that.
I care about her in short shorts.
I'm sure you do. Absolutely.
No, I do not.
I don't. I don't care about that stuff. I just don't. And if that's the stuff that you want to talk about, go talk that stuff. Go somewhere else where they actually do TMZ and tabloid and gossip. I don't do that stuff here. I don't.
But in that interview, though, there was an interesting moment where they talked about Caitlin Clark, and she went real quiet.
Which is interesting too, Tone, because I'm still trying to make sense of
how are you gonna have a podcast and get real quiet like that?
Like we just go black.
It's just like if I went to you, hey yo, tell me about that time you and Shaq shot free throws.
No, I can't do that.
That's uncomfortable, bro.
No, right. Exactly, right? Right. That's not something that that's
like if you're gonna put yourself, I'm sorry, if you're gonna wear short shorts, if you're going to make a beef with someone, then you're gonna be asked about it and you're gonna have to talk about it. Right? Like if you want to say I pay $8,000 a month in rent and my WNBA contract doesn't even cover that, you need to talk about it. Now, I did the math because I'm a math guy. And she makes about after taxes about $35,000 to $4,000 a month in endorsements, so she's fine.
Yep.
Although, as a financial guy, that's still bad advice.
It is
to be paying $8,000 a month because those endorsement deals, that WNBA contract, it's not going to last forever. And the term is you're going to grow accustomed to a certain lifestyle, and you won't be able to afford that lifestyle forever. WNBA. We don't talk a lot about WNBA. Did every coach get fired? What the hell's going on?
I don't know what that was with the coach from Indiana. I mean, this is a team that was at the bottom of the East They were at the bottom of the East. There's a reason why they got the #1 overall pick last year. They were garbage. They get Caitlin Clark on the crew. Boston is better. That's largely due to Caitlin Clark and their coaching. Mitchell was better. A lot of this crew was better. Why they fired her, I don't know.
Coaching didn't start off great, but by midway of the season, it it's significant. She got the team going. But there's 8 coaches. There's 8. I think there's 8 open spots. Like I think you and I have a shot.
That's half the league. That's half the league, Tom.
Is there a team? Is there a team you want to co-head coach together?
I was about to say that. Maybe we might want to put in an application.
I'm moving to Indiana.
I'm not moving to Indiana neither, though. I'm good. I was already up there.
It would be really easy to coach Caitlin Clark.
It wouldn't be that difficult to coach Caitlin Clark, but I'm not really feeling living in Indianapolis. I was up there. I had a good time. It was dope. I think I'm good.
I'm going to find what the other openings are. Next week, we'll decide which WNBA team we're going to go coach.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
In that case, there's nothing left to do but what you do.
It was good to see you guys. It was great to talk to Jeff, man. That was really good stuff. I really enjoyed that. Absolutely. It was great to see you guys tonight. We will see you soon. We will have more great content for you. But until then, put on a suit, drink water, don't drink and drive. Hey, man, call your mother. Well, last time you talked to your mother, call your mother. We will talk to you guys soon. But until then, take it light. But take it. Absolutely, man. It's good to see you guys. No doubt.
Oh, Canada.
Put on a suit, drink water, don't drink and drive. Hey, man, call your mother.
It means nothing. It means nothing.
Nah, they lying to you. It's about the money.
Now you're more fluent.